Hello. Today we're going to take a brief look at how we can make chord changes a little easier for the beginner or intermediate guitar player. Okay? When you're just starting out, sometimes these open chords that we all learn can present somewhat of a challenge when you have to go from chord to chord rather quickly. Okay? Still get all the notes to ring out and make these changes in time. So what we want to do, obviously we're not doing a one-on-one lesson, so I can't give you specifics for you personally, but I can show you some things, some general things that can help you out. One thing, we always want to try to work within the natural movements of the body. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at how your hand is, for example, when your hand is more open, there's a wider spread between the fingers. When you close your hand up, the fingers get closer together and it's harder to spread out. So when your fingers are closer to the position of your thumb like this, they're closer together. When they're above your thumb or further out, you can have more spread. So if I'm trying to do a chord that has spread like this, okay, if I'm doing that chord, there's no way I'm going to be able to play it with my thumb up here and my hand like this. I just don't have large enough hands. Now, some people may, but I can't do that. So what I have to do is I have to bring my thumb down so my thumb is lower than my fingers, which then creates an open spread, which I can easily then make that. Okay, now everything rings out cleanly, and this isn't a strain for me. Okay? Now, just the opposite, however, if we're trying to cram all these fingers into one fret and get all the notes to ring out, I really wouldn't want my thumb low on the neck trying to do like this A chord, because if you look, my fingers are kind of straight. There's not much bend in those knuckles, and by doing so, they're not coming straight on. And hear that buzz there? Okay, now if I bring my thumb up, did you see how that bent the knuckles more? Okay, because my fingers are now closer together, the knuckles are bent, and the pressure that I'm applying is now focused on just the fingertip, as opposed to if it's like this and I push down, the pressure that I apply then spreads out across the finger like that. So sometimes we're going to need to focus that pressure. So when we are playing chords, sometimes we'll have the thumb up here. But it's generally not going to help you out if you try to make a wide spread or stretch to try to have your thumb up there. Okay? So that's just some basic things of how the anatomy of the hand works. Okay? Now as far as making chord changes, let's take a look at, say for example, that A. The second finger is above the pinky, or if you play it like this, the first finger is above the third finger. When I say above, it's closer to the ceiling. So if we tilt our hand just slightly like this, they naturally fall into place. However, if we're doing an F chord or a C chord, where the third finger is higher or closer to the ceiling than the first, we're not going to want that same position. If our hand is like this, then we really got to stretch this stuff out. And it doesn't make, you can play it like that, but for me it doesn't ring out that well. Now, if I bring my hand like this a little more, everything falls into place easier. It's not a strain. And how you do that is the movement of your elbow has a lot to do with it. Okay? So if we were to play like an A, and then we change keys and go to an F, you know, by doing so, watch the movement of my elbow. Elbow comes in and the wrist turns. Okay? Notice how that happens before the fingers move. Because when I do that, it kind of lays the fingers there, and they're ready for me to place them down. So what we want to do is we want efficiency of motion in the fingers. We want to keep them close to the strings, but to get that efficiency of motion in the fingers, sometimes we're going to have larger movements with the elbow. So for example, if I'm going from a G to a D, we change keys and go from an F to a C, I chose that chord progression because there's a lot of movement, a lot of different positions. You can see my elbow move. If I'm doing a faster change, okay, if I'm doing stuff like that, I'm going to want to get the hand in position by moving the elbow and wrist so the fingers can fall into place easier. I'm going from this D to the F. The first thing that happens is my elbow comes in. I make that movement first so the fingers can fall into place a lot easier. If I'm in this same position for the D and then try to place my fingers in that position for the F, it's not going to work for me. So what I found for myself and many of my students is when we move the wrist and the elbow first, that allows the fingers to fall into place. So I'm going to take this slow, and I want you to pay attention to the movement of my elbow and wrist. And see how that happens before I put the fingers down. And the fingers aren't coming out way away from the strings. They're staying close, and I'm allowing that to happen by making that movement of my elbow and wrist first. Okay? So my suggestions, again, since we're not doing a one-on-one lesson, I can't see what you're doing or any problems you may encounter while trying this. I can't give specifics. However, my suggestion would be find the best way for you personally, since we all have different size hands, thickness, flexibility of fingers change. Some of us are double jointed. I am not. And our thumbs and fingers bend differently. So there's not, in my opinion, there's not one way that's right for everyone. So find the chord progression that you're having problems with, if there are any, and take it chord by chord and say, okay, this is how I can get this chord to ring out clearly, and this feels fairly comfortable. Then focus on the sensations that you feel. Like for me, when I play a G, I feel the neck right in here, and my thumb is slightly above the neck here. Then when I go to the D, I feel more the neck touching here, and my thumb is further over. So those are sensations that I feel, and I associate them with the different chord. And that's the first thing I go for. And then the fingers fall into place. So before you try to put your fingers on the strings that they need to be, get that wrist and elbow in position so the fingers can fall into place easier. Okay, so hopefully this helps you out. It gives you some different way to look at this to help you figure out the best way for you personally to change chords. And I'll go through this again faster and then slower, but pay attention to the movement of my elbow and wrist. And then slow. See how the movement of the elbow and wrist precedes the placing down of the fingers. So give that a try. Hopefully that'll help you out, and you can get these chord changes down quicker so you can be playing your favorite songs sooner. Hope you enjoy. See you next time. Peace.